Hello. Okay, this one is, completely different. I'm just going to show you some of my favourite things to do with my bolster. I know a few of you've got bolsters and like to use them, but there's so many things you can do with a bolster. It can be active, it could be relaxation. There's so many things. So I'll quickly go through a few of the poses and give you lots of options. So starting with my lovely big bolster, and I'm going to come on my knees. So I'm going to come into lizard pose. So this is one of my favourites. It gets fully into the hips. So I'm going to bring my left foot next to the side of the bolster and lean into it. So what you do need to watch is that the heels of the hands can sink into the bolster. So maybe you prefer to be on your fists, would give you a little bit more space in the wrists. So those of you that struggle with your wrists. And the back knee, put a cushion or blanket under it. So the idea with some of these poses I'm going to be doing just now, they would be long holds. So you're thinking at least 30 seconds, possibly a minute and a half. If you're going for the really long relaxation ones, then you're holding them, indefinitely, as long as you need. So the idea with a lot of deep flexibility when you're kind of working your way into it slowly. There's so many different ways of increasing flexibility, but when I'm using the bolster, it tends to be just a lie into it, using the breath to extend the length of the breath, and to each exhale allowing yourself to just sink a little bit lower. You're letting go as much as possible. So I'm not keeping this one active today. And then when you find you've maybe got a bit more space because you've been here a while, you can possibly come down onto the elbows. And if you do like to make it a little bit active, you could be actively allowing the leg to roll out. Just watch how that feels in joints. Don't ever force any movement. And then squeezing it back in, so using the muscles in the leg to push it back in, and then let go and bring it back in. So the bolster here really is just a prop to lean on. You could do exactly the same with blocks. I just like the bolster. Okay, so the other thing you can do with your lizard pose is bring it out to the side more and sink a little bit more, and maybe come on to the side of the other leg. There's lots of little wiggle movements you can do. The other thing I've seen done, or done a little bit myself, is to turn the bolster, put it underneath the opposite hip, and then lie down on it. So you're getting a little bit lower again. But again, don't force any movement. There's no point in forcing flexibility. All your body does is tighten up to protect what it thinks is under threat. So we just want to ease into it. Okay, so when we're coming out of the lizard, I always like to come back and come into the opposite. So sending the hips back, drawing the tummy in, lifting the hip bones back, and I like to work on the flexibility of the back of the leg. So I'm now pushing into the heel, so I'm actively now pushing down. Possibly give yourself a bit more space, bring the bolster a bit closer, give yourself a little bit of height. It's good. So those of you that are working on this flexibility in here, you can pop the heel onto the bolster, fingertips lift, think tummy drawn in and sending the hip back. So here we're looking for squareness of the hip, so you're drawing this hip back so that the pelvis is nice and square, pushing the heel down, and the opposite would be to try and lift the leg up. That's getting very active, so yeah. As I said, it doesn't have to be nice and easy and relaxing. Okay, so that's just our first little bit of flexibility using the bolster. The next one I like to work on, I don't always do this in this order, but I'm just going to go through a few of my favourites. So thinking of forward folds. You can do this with your forward fold with the legs together. You can have your bolster on the legs. You can even have it propped up with blocks and things to give yourself a little bit more support as you fold forward. But what I like to work on in particular is the wide leg forward fold with the bolster. So you want to be able to sit forward, so you don't want it so close that you've got to round your back to come forward, because still you want to come onto the sit bones, possibly with the knees bent, to then think about the back still being nice and straight as you come forward. And possibly you're coming onto the elbows, maybe straightening up the legs, pushing into the heels. It's quite an active one for me today. So those of you that the forward fold is not your best friend, yeah, use a block, give yourself a bit of support, and then you can possibly just have a cuddle, a little wiggle into it. So this is snugly into my tummy so that my entire torso is heavy on the bolster, and then I'm sinking into the breath. So what I could do here, although I was speaking about pushing the heels down, you could make this all loosey-goosey and let it relax. And again, you'd just be staying here for as long as it felt good. And if you felt after a minute that you had a bit more space, then just adjust. Come a little bit lower. Focus on the breath. So these poses are quite long. So once you're into a good position for you, you're thinking about tracking your own breath, taking note of your inhale and your exhale. And maybe again, as you've been there a little while, you can sink a little bit lower. So what you do need to be mindful of is if you're increasing your flexibility by going deeper and deeper into each pose with time, space, breath, all those lovely things, that you need to take the getting out slowly as well. Not quite as slowly, but carefully support yourself as you come up, and maybe encourage the legs in and just let them relax just for a moment. You don't want to force the muscles, a bit like an elastic band. You don't want to force it too quick, or a balloon, and then it goes pop. That is not what we're looking for. Okay, so last little thing while we're seated this direction is a seated twist, a lying down twist actually. So I'm going to sit as close to the bolster as I can, but side on. I'll turn my back to you to start with, because I am going to twist round. So this is another one that could be supported with a block underneath. So think block across the way, supporting the weight of the bolster. So it's quite nice to have it on this diagonal here, and snuggling the hip right in next to the bolster. And then you're turning your chest to face forward and down, and coming down. And then if it feels good for you, you're turning the head as well. So I've got my legs quite loosely bent, one's slightly further than the other. This is something you can play around with, what works for you. You can keep them tighter, you can twist them together. This one's great. If ever you needed just a little bit of time to relax. Feels really good in the lower back and the hips. Just make sure you feel nice and supported. Yeah, I could stay here all day. When you're doing likes of the lizard pose and this, you need to do both sides. Because this is do it to one side, do it to the other. And again, you could ease into it, you could bring it lower if you like. It's quite nice just to stay with the slope for this one. So what shall we do next? So we're going to come on to my knees. So this is something again that you can do with the bolster flat, or you could do it with the bolster supported. I'm going to bring my feet to either side of the bolster, and I'm going to snuggle my bottom down in front of it. So you could be on a block, giving yourself a little bit more space, or a cushion is always good. as well, and I'm going to come to lie back on it. So carefully lowering myself down. So if this was propped up higher, it could be propped up at the back at the diagonal that we did in the twist, just to allow yourself a little bit of space. So a couple of things you can do here: allow the arms to come out to the side, feels really nice across the chest. Be aware of how this feels in your lower back. If this feels like it's pulling into your lower back too much or into the knees, legs could be forward, then yeah, have it propped up, 45-degree angle, just it'll take it out of the lower back a little bit. It's also quite nice to raise the arms overhead, maybe holding on to each elbow with the hand, and again it's going to open up across your shoulders into that, the front of the chest, front of the neck, and again, just sinking into it, whatever feels good for you today. Nice long steady breath. So with this coming backwards, you're going to have to be careful coming out that you're not going to strain anything. So either really a lot of control with the abs pushing into the elbows if you're lifting up and forward, or allow yourself just to roll off to the side. Okay, so that was coming backwards. I'm going to come back again, but this is my favourite. So I left it to last because I need to tie myself in knots. This one I'm definitely going to prop up. So you could prop it here like this, which is where I'm going to show you the pose, or you could have it against the wall like that. Put a bit of support underneath so it's not going to slide. And it's always good to have nice to have a cushion in front as well, because you're going to sit on it. Okay. But what I'm going to do with this one, I'm also going to show you how I use my strap. So some of you have done this with me before. I'm going to come into Baddha Konasana. So we could do this without strap. So Baddha Konasana is the one when we take our feet together, knees wide, and we're just going to lie back like so, which is lovely. So I'm going to show you how to make this a little bit more. More and more. I'm also going to use my sandbags. So sandbags, I think I've got rice in them. I don't have sand in them. I think it's rice because I like the way it feels. Right, we're going to take a very big loop in your strap and put it over my head and bring it down into my back. So what I don't want is it round your lower back. It's got to be round the top of your bottom, so underneath the pelvis, so you can feel the top of that crest in the pelvis. So making sure that it's hooking under there, because you don't want it pressing into your lower back. And take it forward, and you're going to have your feet touching, and you're going to loop it underneath the feet. Oh, I've got this in the wrong place. Over the knees and under the feet. So the loop is round the pelvis and here. Buckle at the front so you can tighten it up. And you're just going to start to pull yourself together. Quite literally, pull yourself together. Okay. So don't force it so much that you then can't lie back or you feel really constricted. If this is not for you, you don't ever have to do this. This is just one of those things that I kind of like to do. Right, so because I know my flexibility can take it, and I quite like the weight that I can put these bags on each leg. I think they're 5 kilograms. I can't remember what I put in them. Yeah, they're not light, but they're also, I don't feel like I'm being pinned to the floor, if that makes sense. The other thing about these bags, I'll show you once I'm lying down, that are great for when we're relaxing, is you can put them on you, same way as you would with a weighted blanket. Very nice for helping feel grounded and relaxed. So carefully ease yourself down. I already feel good. And then you're letting go. This is like a big inhale. And let go. So, yeah, I mentioned you can do other things with these bags. So I've got them on my legs, and I've no tension in my legs at all. This is just, yeah, I'm just relaxed as much as possible. In fact, I could probably tighten a bit more. But when we're doing any lying down, so you could have the legs forward, but these, very nice. If you, yeah, feel the need for that sort of grounding feeling. So if you feel a bit flighty, a bit anxious, a bit highly wired, when we relax, it's nice to put an eye pillow on the face as well. I've got lovely ones with lavender in them. And they've got a bit of weight to them as well, and then resting on your face, and then one of these on the body does feel really nice. Especially as you relax and get ready for bed. So wherever you are, in whichever pose it is, remember to go back to the breath. If you find the mind wander and try and go away from you, then you're going to bring it back. Give it something to do, whether it's to count your breath, whether it's to notice how the breath feels in the body. So maybe you've got one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly. Holding on, just a nice big inhale. And exhale. Everything out. So, yeah, give them a go. Try, see which ones you like. This one's my favourite.